Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Thank you to everyone that is here tuning in. So in commemoration of March being Women's Month, we are excited to bring you today 5 female powerhouse leaders in our real estate industry. They will be sharing their journey into leadership, their growth, and so much more. So without further ado, let me welcome and introduce our panelists for today. We have Chandra Etienne, Venus Proffer, Wesley Ulloa, Conageski, and Martha Gillespie-Beeman. Welcome. We are very excited to have you here today and to hear what all you lovely ladies have to say. So what I want to start off here is, please, if you can each tell us which board you are representing for the Miami Association of Realtors, which one you serve on, and then also what positions have you held? Let's start with Martha.
I'll start. My name is Martha Gillespie-Beeman, and I've been a member of the JTHS Miami board for 21 years. And I have been a board of governor and also a liaison to the big brokers. And I am currently the president of JTHS Miami.
Amazing. And Kay?
Hi, I'm Conageski. I currently am a governor on the commercial board. I'm an ambassador for the Broward board. And in the past, I have done both the Broward and commercial boards as governors. I'm also a state director.
Thank you. Venus.
Good morning. I'm Venus Proffer. I am the president-elect for the Broward board, and I've served as an ambassador, and I've served 5 terms as a governor for the board.
Wonderful. And Chandra?
I am the 2022 president of Miami YPN. Been on the YPN board now. This will be my 5th year as past president. And I'm currently on the corporate board for the 2nd year. And I'm also a state director. And I'm on 3 committees for Florida Realtors as well. And an NAR director as well.
Fantastic. And I just saw Wesley joined us. Very excited to have you on. So I was asking all these lovely ladies, which real estate board do you serve on for the Miami Association of Realtors? And then also what positions have you held?
Perfect. Good morning, everybody. I am currently on the residential board, and I was previously 2019 YPN president, and I served on the YPN board for 5 years, and this is my 3rd year on the residential board.
Amazing. It's amazing to have all of you here, especially serving for so many years. So most of us have very interesting or unique stories on how we got into leadership. So we would love to hear how each of you started your path into one of the leadership boards. So let's start with Chandra.
Okay. All right. So I did not even know, to be quite frank, I didn't know exactly what I was signing up for, to be quite honest. But somebody basically just tapped me on the shoulder, like, hey, this opportunity exists. I think that you would be great for it. And they told me to apply. The first year I applied to be on the Miami YPM board, I didn't get selected, which is fine. Obviously, it's a numbers game, right? There's only so many people on the board. So I applied again the next year and just went full in, just got on the board and then became a state director. And then immediately after that, applied to be on like 2 or 3 state committees and did that. So my journey into leadership isn't necessarily really glamorous or exciting. I literally was just tapped on the shoulder and applied twice until I finally got on the board.
No, but it is, because it shows not to give up. And if you don't get in the first time, reapply, because you can get in. And you made it all the way to president. You were an amazing president for YPN. So, Kay, we would love to hear your story.
Well, very much like Chandra, I wasn't exactly sure. I also didn't know that if I applied to all the boards, that I would be lucky enough to get selected to 2 of them. And the first year I did both the the Broward and the commercial. And it was great because it was actually at a point in my life where I wanted to start to give back. So I felt like I needed to, thank those people that helped me get to where I was in my career. So that was my first step to the journey. Then for 2 years, I did serve on both boards until they told me I couldn't do that any longer because they do have limited spaces. So now I swap between the two. So every other year I'm going to swap back and forth, but it's kind of nice because I can bring commercial into Broward into commercial. So it's kind of a nice crossover.
Absolutely. And Martha, let's hear your story. Martha, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I started with the Sheehan Agency back in 2001, and that's the broker I'm still with. And the first thing Mr. Sheehan said is get involved with the board and take as many classes as you can. So I got involved, I took classes at the board, and then a very good friend of mine who unfortunately passed away last year said to me, probably about 6 or 7 years ago, Charlene Okowski said, join the board, it'll be fun. I'm on it. Let's do it. So here I am. The rest is history, and it's been nothing but amazing.
Wonderful. And Wesley?
So when I started the company about 2 years in, I got approached by George Guerra. He's one of our, I would say one of our most popular, most well-known board members, and also Florida Realtor Secretary. And he approached me and he's like, I think you should apply. Please apply. And to be honest, I was very skeptical. And I was like, I really don't want to take away time from my business. And I was going to say no. And he finally convinced me to do it. And I jumped right in. And I was so thankful I did. Even the first year, I was very thankful because it opened up so many doors, opportunities, learning, chances to learn and growth. But I was originally not going to accept the invitation to even apply. So I just wanted to share that.
And could you even imagine that being a part of it and making a difference?
I mean, looking back now, no.
And Venus, what about you?
So I actually started by going to a different organization, starting Women's Council. I went to a meeting and they were talking about casino night. I'm like, I'm in, let me help. I'll be happy to. Then I ended up, before I knew, I was on their board. I became their local network president. I became a DVP and I became a state governor. And during that time, I was also approached for like going at all of the state and national conferences anyways. And someone's like, you're not a Florida director? I'm like, no, what's that? Yeah, sure, I come anyways. So I got to become a Florida director, loved it, been a director, I stopped counting 8 years, I'm not sure. And I had gotten on the board. I became a governor, like, this is really cool. We get to just come to the table and, help out and just continue to better our community. So that was my journey.
Amazing. And thank you to all of you for serving on the boards. So part of this is giving back, but also we want to hear how your years volunteering on one of the boards has affected your business, and also the biggest lesson that you've learned during your time volunteering. Let's start with Venus.
So giving back, it's great because I actually tell my customers, even when I go on to listing appointments, I can tell them I give back to our industry. And I think it really means a lot to them. I know it means a lot to me. So just being able to say that and saying I invest in our industry as well in many different ways, because that's what we're supposed to do as realtors, right? We're supposed to give back and help our community. So I think we do that in many, many ways, especially even on the board, because we get more involved with like the beach cleanups and a lot of volunteer opportunities as well that we go through. And as far as, what was your second question?
Biggest lesson learned.
Biggest lesson learned, that would definitely be that someone's always watching. And I realized that, and I'm still learning it, right? We're always evolving, but I think that you have to be cognizant. Everyone has a lot of different personalities and a lot of different things going on. So we have to be a little more in tune to that and realize someone's always watching. So even when I'm like, telling a story, I'm like, oh, and yes, and then I wanted to kill him. Yes. So smile because someone's always watching. It helps.
Chandra, what about you?
Okay, so I'll start with, I guess, biggest impact in business. It would be, I guess, kind of twofold. One, you're really able to have just higher level conversations with your peers and your clients and customers. Everything is not so salesy. When you are really involved and you really understand what's happening as far as like legislation and things like that, it really does put you in a different level in my opinion. And then also the relationships, like it's pretty dope to want to go see a house or whatever, and there's multiple offers on it, and you just happen to know the listing agent or the broker because you guys sit on the same board together, you're serving together, or you guys were, at a conference together, advocating for the same thing. So the relationships that are built is absolutely amazing. And I would actually say that's been the biggest impact on my business because let's be real, volunteering does take time away from your business, right? So having those relationships has been absolutely amazing. And then biggest lesson learned would definitely be for me personally, 2020. There was just so much happening between COVID and social unrest and things going on. It was just really interesting to see how much power our industry actually has. As far as, just everything, our voices. Miami Realtors, we're obviously the largest local association in the country. So like our voices really, really matter. And then you can't forget about RPAC and, how that ended up just changing how Florida dealt with COVID overall. So that's been like the biggest learning lesson, just like how much power we have in our industry and how much power we really have when we're serving in our industry as well.
And you bring up an excellent point because a lot of members don't realize what a difference you can actually make in the industry and in your profession and even at a state level. So Wesley, would love to hear from you.
So with my time serving in the board, I would say what has had a profound impact for me is actually the leadership training that we get in serving. So while we are here volunteering, the board is pouring in so much to us to teach us to be better leaders, to help navigate challenges, change, especially things like COVID, or just the different ebbs and flows of the market. So I've been able to learn so much just by serving on the board. And also, I would say just what goes into the back end of the organization when it comes to Miami Realtors, Florida Realtors, and on a national level. When I got my license when I was younger, I would always get these magazines. I would get my Florida Realtors magazines. I would get stuff from NAR, but you really, really know what was going on behind that. And just being able to lift up the hood and see it all, it's eye-opening, and taking all that information and bringing it back to others has been a great experience, allowing others to partake in that experience and grow themselves. So I think the question, while it's two questions, I think they go hand in hand, because I've been able to get so much from the board on that leadership level, learning to be a better leader, and as well, getting that information and giving it to others and allowing them to learn from that.
Beautifully said. And what about Kay?
Well, I do remember once, very much like Venus had said, I sat with a client, explained that I do, different things with the board. And I was actually talking about affordable housing at that point. And the client said to me, "You really do more than just sell houses." And that was kind of like a statement that kind of set in me, because I was like, yeah, I actually do. So, being part of the board, You do. You get to know what goes into the everyday operations. You get to know the strength behind being a Miami member. You get to understand, what happens in your local community, your state, your national. And again, you're speaking more knowledgeable to everyone that you talk to. So yeah, we definitely do a lot more than just sell houses. And, from what I learned that your voice can be heard. Like, you cannot be a shy person when you volunteer and be on a board. You have to have an opinion. Everybody likes to hear it, whether it's taken or not. It's always good to talk it through. And sometimes, some of the best things come out of our meetings that people never thought of before. And, one of the coolest things that I saw back in 2020 was how fast the board reacted to what we needed. They made us essential workers. They got everything we needed. They put us in parking lots to close deals. I mean, it was a crazy time for everyone, but the power behind what we have is just amazing. And it's something I've never seen in all my years working. And I'm like a million years old, so.
Definitely not, but. But I would say, even if you're a little shy, it definitely helps you get out of your shell, especially when you see all you have to do is speak up and you have this powerhouse behind you that's always supporting you and making sure you have all the resources you need.
Correct.
And Martha.
I think it is, I'm going to ditto what Venus said when I go on listing appointments or a meeting with buyers. And especially if they don't know me, I explain to them that I'm on the board and they think that's great that I'm giving back. The biggest question is, how do you have time to do all that? But it's all about balance. And I also think the biggest lesson learned that I'm still learning is patience goes a long way. That's something I've struggled with for a long time. And you can't be everything to everybody and you can't be everywhere. So you just have to pick and choose and give it your best shot.
Absolutely. So I want to open this up and feel free to chime in with any advice you would like to give anyone that is considering volunteering in one of the leadership boards.
Just do it.
Yeah, just
Simple.
do it.
Yeah, always say yes and you figure it out later. That's what they teach us, and also I think another big thing is don't think you're recreating the wheel. You're not reinventing the wheel. Ask the past leaders. They're actually usually like myself. I'm thrilled when somebody asks me something. I'm like, yes, I'm happy to help you. I'll tell you exactly how I did it. So it's important to just ask and do it.
Just do it. And just know you're going to be surrounded by strong leaders, strong professionals all the way around and every day. And every question will be answered and everyone will have your back.
Absolutely. It's an industry like you've never seen, where people are happy to answer your questions. They're happy to help you. They're happy to guide you. And, like everyone said, you're not coming in with new things. You're just helping to make things get better and also bring new ideas to the table that we may never have thought of before. So yeah, absolutely. Just do it.
You heard everyone, just do it. So the majority of Realtor members that are women who have had careers in other fields we've had careers prior to entering in real estate. So we would love to know what each of you did before you started your real estate careers.
I'll go first.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Kay.
I was going to say I'll go first because I've probably had more jobs than most people, or like a lot of people put together. I came from the hospitality industry, many, many years working in hotels, catering, in meeting planning. So all of that helped, develop people skills, obviously, negotiation skills, and just learning how to, wear different hats and figure out different things all at one time. And then my last job before getting into real estate was banking. So that helped me, a lot, figuring out what the other side does from the realtor, so, but real estate, as I said, when I got into it, it will be my last job. And I'm very happy of that because it's all mine. So it's very special, and everything I do and how hard you work for it, remember, it's always all yours.
I might be the youngest person on the call or on this panel. So,
It's okay, I'm probably the oldest.
so prior to this, I mean, I was still in college when I started, getting into real estate, and it was during the crash. So right before that, I was a student at FIU, and I was a paralegal, and let me see, right before that, I was a hostess at PF Chang's, right? So I don't have much of a history before real estate. However, I will say the only reason why I got my real estate license is because my mom forced me to, because she's a real estate broker. And she was like, just do it. You never know, because I was doing the pre-law route. So that's why I was a paralegal. I worked in a law firm. Like, I was doing that whole thing. And then she told me to quit my job and work with her. So I don't have too much of a history prior to real estate.
I'll jump in if I could, or you want to go, Martha? You could go.
No, go ahead, Wes.
So funny enough, Chandra, your mom wanted you to get into real estate. When I told my mom I got my real estate license, she had a heart attack. She's like, no, what if you don't make any money? What if, how are you gonna, it's not consistent, you need a full-time job. So I had the complete opposite experience, but now I think she's happy and thankful that I did. But I actually was in the fitness industry for 4 years before I became a realtor. So I worked in a gym. I worked my way up from the receptionist, and I started managing the location. And then I got my real estate license, and that's where you find me now.
I worked for a company which a lot of people have heard of, Devasta, Bergen Devasta and Devasta, for several years. And then I left that company and I worked for a franchise company, which is still in business. It was the headquarters for their global, and they're still in West Palm Beach. And I started out as their purchasing coordinator. And then I planned meetings worldwide, all kinds of hospitality things. And I ended up as their human resource manager. And then I left that company, and we sold our house in Palm Beach Gardens, my husband and I. It was a for sale by owner, and I had no desire to be any part of it. I just said, tell me where to sign. That's all I wanted. And then when we moved to Martin County, I said, I think I'm going to get into real estate. And he just looked at me, shook his head and said, whatever. And I started at Sheehan as their Mr. and Mrs. Sheehan's assistant and their office manager, got my license, and here I am. And it's been it'll be 22 years in June.
So like Kay, I also started in the restaurant industry, and I was working from the front of the house, hostess, cocktail waitress, nights. Then I started at 2 other restaurants, and a friend of mine there said, oh, Venus, I'm working in a title company. It's great. You love it. So I got into title, and I did that for many years in mainly the foreclosure world. And I learned all about it. And I was like, wow, these realtors are really making a difference in buyers and sellers' lives. So I was like, that really is what encouraged me to get into real estate and just to pursue the career.
Amazing. It's interesting how all our paths start, but we always end up where we're supposed to. So since you are all such huge female powerhouses, we want to hear from you. What challenges do you think still exist in professional settings for us women? Let's start with Martha.
I actually face this not as much as I used to in my earlier years, but when you're dealing, and this is not a man bashing, so any guys out there, I feel a lot of other agents who they think because I'm a woman that I don't notice things, like I don't know that there's dry rot, or they think that I'm beneath. Sometimes they think I'm beneath them, or that, oh, you're just, but But then when you follow up and you show yourself, and I've had a few say, wow, I miscalculated you. But I do think that that we go underestimated. And I wear a shirt often that says, don't ever it says, underestimate me, that'll be fun.
I want that shirt.
It's a great shirt.
I could jump in if you want. So I have a woman-owned business basically, and I would want to say about 90% of our staff is female. And I do notice, and nothing, this is not all men, but I do notice that there are some men that don't want to get advice from me or sometimes my staff. They don't want to hear it from me. And sometimes I feel like, and we've brought on a few male, leaders to work in the organization. And I notice sometimes they prefer to go that route instead of, looking for advice from a female. So I do notice that trend, not all. I have a lot of great males that work for the company. It's just some have a preference when it comes to that, and they don't want to hear my advice, I feel, because I am a woman.
I think one of the biggest challenges we have, aside from safety, is that we are more considered to be more into things that are aesthetically pleasing. So because of that, there's this idea that we don't actually know what we're doing, right? So it's almost like you just always have to prove that, yes, we're not just showing you the pretty bedroom, you know what I mean? We actually know what we are doing. We're actually professionals. I feel like there's just always this need to just kind of have to prove that you are just more than maybe a pretty face or just a woman who's a door opener, in real estate. But then I guess like the most important thing or the most crucial thing is safety. Because if we want to be quite frank, when we talk about realtor safety, usually those are things that a woman has to apply to all parts of her life, not just in real estate. So unfortunately, being a woman, there are just chances that you are more victimized in certain situations, right? So we always have to be far more careful and far more aware of our surroundings and far more cautious of who we're meeting with and things like that. And, there have been times where other like male realtors would be like, oh, you guys are exaggerating, or it can't be that often. And I always tell them, ask every female not just every female realtor, ask every woman if she's ever had an encounter that could have turned out dangerous. And you'd actually be very surprised with how many of them, if not all of them, can give you at least one situation that they've been in, right? So yeah, that's just my 2 cents. Besides the fact that we have to prove ourselves, we also have to be extra cautious and aware of our safety at all times.
I think one of the things that I think is still a challenge is that sometimes people think women are, I don't know how to say this, but soft, sympathetic, maybe not aggressive enough. And, I've had that over the years that's come up where they're like, I think they feel like you're not going to fight for them. And like I always tell them, listen, I can be somebody's best friend or their worst nightmare. You decide which one you want. So, if I'm going after something, or if I believe that my client's been wronged, there's a whole other side of it that comes out. And, people have been surprised of the way that we can fight for our clients, or, go after an appraisal that we don't feel is right, or, fight for inspection results, things on that order. And I think that's just one little hurdle that we have to overcome, that they think that we're all, cute and nice and everything like that. But there's a whole other side of us that, I think goes up against the men very well.
Well, I think the ladies here stated it very well. There's always more we know than which is a great tool, as you all said. But I also read something interesting recently. There was a survey and they said that 90% men will go for a job if they feel they'll get it with 90%, with only 60% confidence. But women will not go for the same position unless they feel they're 90 to 100% confident. So I think that's just something women as a whole, as professionals, we need to just get out of our comfort zone and do it, and maybe men can even help embrace us and say, listen, if they've got that confidence, we can have that confidence. So I thought that was an interesting statistic to find out about professionals.
Absolutely. Thank you everyone for sharing. And all these challenges at the end of the day just make us better and stronger as women. Chandra brought up realtor safety, which is always a very big and hot topic and something that's not often discussed. So unfortunately, we have seen too much news where a realtor was a victim, sometimes deadly, or during a showing or an open house. So we want to know, what have you incorporated into your business to ensure your safety? And what advice would you give other agents regarding their safety when they go out?
I'll start. Because I know a couple people that have had scary encounters but also you learn it, and just a lot of it's common sense. I will never do an open house alone, although I have done it in my earlier years, and my sellers are very good about that. If my lender or someone from my office can't accompany me, there will be no open house. And I'm blessed that 99.9% of my business is repeat business, or it's somebody I know somebody through somebody. So if I'm showing a buyer a house that we've probably crossed paths, and I'm comfortable with that. If I'm going to a listing with a cold buyer, my husband or my son, or I have a neighbor that's on standby that will come with me. And if they're not approved, if I don't get a pre-qual letter from them prior to that showing, I don't go. There will be no appointment. But very few times have I had to go those routes, just because I typically know of the person, or my friend is accompanying with that person that's bringing them to me.
So I'll go next. I actually was fortunate to sit and listen to a session. We had Beverly Carter's son, Carl Carter, come in and explain to us the situation that happened to her. And a few things she did basically everything right, sadly, that she could. And one of the things I've learned is, don't walk in the room first. If you're with people you don't know, let them walk in the room first. Don't be trapped in a room. Some other things that I also don't do open houses alone. I have friends stop in or whatnot constantly if I can't get a lender or someone to come with me. Another thing is, I've taken Aikido classes, which is an excellent martial art that'll train you to be able to get away, and basically it's an excellent form. I highly recommend it, although I took it so long ago, I don't think I remember any of it. And also trust your senses. Like, don't go in the car and then sit on your phone and scroll. That is not good. Be aware of your surroundings. I once even just encountered, just after an event, I went to one of our installations locally, and I had one of our dignitaries with me. I said, stay in the car and look out, because we were not in a good neighborhood. I'm going to get gas because we have to. I said, but look, and she was like, you're not kidding, that guy over there. And I told the other guy, I said, back up, just, you have to be confident, and you have to be aware of your surroundings at all times, not just in our real estate industry.
You touched on not entering a room first. Other things you don't want to do is, if it's a 2-story home or a multi-level home, don't go upstairs before them or with them. If it's just the two of you, always stay downstairs, always leave the front door open. If it's a driveway, don't drive your car into the top of the driveway so somebody can come behind you and block you in. Just like little things like that. Personally, I always tell my husband where I'm at, who I'm going to be with, the address, the name of the person, or people that I'm supposed to be with and meeting with. Somebody asked in the chat if there are any apps. There is an app. It's called Forewarn that you can use. And if it's an open house or things like that, I never do like a physical sign-in sheet. Everybody has to sign in and have their information verified. There's an app. What's it called? I'll put it in the chat, but we get it through the board. This was something that was actually like heavily promoted a couple years ago, where the attendees of an open house can put in their contact information, and it just verifies that their phone number is actually real and things like that, right? So you don't want people coming into a home and pretending to be somebody that they're not, right? So just little things like that. Just be completely aware of your surroundings. Always tell somebody where you're going to be, especially if it's a listing appointment, a buyer showings, buyer appointment, or anything outside of the office. If it's possible, get a copy of their ID. Don't just show up to a random house without verifying that the person you spoke to over the phone, like make sure the name actually matches a tax record type thing, just little basic, I don't want to say common sense tips, but just use your brain, right? And just cross-reference and verify, and just always let somebody know where you'll be and who you'll be with.
I'll just go
And I think one thing, oh, go ahead.
Well, just very quickly, just echoing what everybody else said. I have like a buddy system. So if I go on any appointment or listing presentation or any meeting that I don't feel fully comfortable, I go through all the proper checks. But I'm like, if I just want to have some extra precautions, I'm going to let somebody know where I'm at as soon as I get there, when I'm walking in. And of course, I never walk in first, all of that. But on top of it, I tell them, I need you to call me in about 5 to 10 minutes. And if I don't answer the phone, you're going to call the cops. So that way I have a buffer, a 5-10 minute window. If I don't answer, my friends or whoever I'm telling knows the rules. They're immediately calling the cops to make sure that I'm okay.
And I want to add, because I know I train a lot of new agents. I've seen a lot of people who will take their purses with them or carry things with them, and that's an absolute no-no. Like, leave that in the car. Like I said, a lot of new agents, I kind of just watch them sometimes when I take them on appointments with me, and they'll grab their bag and they'll walk in, and I'll be like, when they come back in the car, I'll be like, what are you doing? Let's talk about this. The other thing is, don't be on your phone when you're showing a house. I've seen so many agents that will let the people into the house. They'll stand there and they'll be looking at their phone or answering. And I know it's tough for us to do, but like everyone has said, just always be aware of your surroundings. You never can take your eyes off of what's happening that's right in front of you.
Thank you for sharing. And actually, piggybacking on what Wes said, she actually has my location every time I go out. I use the buddy system with her so she can keep track of where I am and know at all times. So it's also use that, especially if you're newer. So Kay, want to ask you this question since you primarily do commercial and you're on the commercial board. So 70% of all commercial realtors are male compared to 30% who are female, according to NAR. How has your experience been being a woman in the commercial real estate space?
That was an excellent question, actually, and I had to take some time to really think about it. I've been doing commercial real estate for about 6 years now. And when I first started, yes, absolutely, it was kind of tough to get into that boys game, if I want to call it that. Again, not male bashing, but you're absolutely right. There are mostly men realtors that do commercial real estate. What I found is, if you know what you're talking about, you know your buyers, you know your sellers, you know your asset classes when you're talking about commercial, you know what your people are looking for, you know your ROIs and the verbiage, that basically you can run with the big dogs once you have it. Now, the bigger challenge that I found outside of being a woman in it was bringing my residential side to it. So when you come in and, a lot of commercial practitioners are very businesslike. So, they're not happy, or they're not smiling. They're not greeting you the way that you usually do in residential. So when I would come in and be like, hey, hi, how are you? I'm Kay, and da, 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 da. People would be like, whoa. And I think that surprised them more. And now that I'm running in the circle for many years, I'm running back into those people. And it's funny to see how they have lightened up or softened up and became that, instead of being very standoffish and very businesslike. So I think it was a funny challenge of not only of overcoming that I was a woman kind of, going in their field, but also because I was coming from a residential side where it's very people oriented and you have to be patient, you have to be nice, you have to be understanding, and you're not that business like type of mentality. That was the bigger challenge. But now it's actually a lot of fun. And once you get some great people, I know I've got some what I call PICs, partners in commercial or partners in crime, however I want to call it. But once I get out some of those, with your back pocket, they will help you, guide you. They love having you, and they really have the knowledge that you can base off of.
Amazing. And your success has truly shown it's all about building that core group.
Absolutely. Building your core group, your relationships, it's all the same. Absolutely. But bringing in things that you knew to another side was really fun.
Well, thank you. So I want to hear from each of you. How do you empower yourselves and especially the women around you? I want to start off with Wesley, since she mentioned her company is 90% women. So how do you keep yourself empowered every day? And more importantly, how do you empower the women that surround you?
I think there's two things, how to empower myself is, the self-talk that we tell ourselves is extremely important. And I think, I'm not saying everybody, right? But I think a lot of people don't pay a lot of attention to, the story that we tell ourselves, making sure that we're focused on the positive, looking towards growth, looking towards, things are going to go wrong and it's okay. It happens to everybody. How are you going to overcome that? So I think it's a lot of that self-talk, and being graceful with yourself is extremely important. I think us as women, some of us have different roles. Some of us have a mother role. Some of us have, a wife role, a daughter, sister, all of these different roles. And we have to be graceful because we're filling so many roles every day, and that role to our clients, right? That business role. So we have to be graceful with ourselves because I think women tend to beat ourselves up sometimes. So I think it's really important to have that positive self-talk. How do I empower others? I just think it's really important to lead by example. So I work day in and day out the best I can to lead by example for others. You could always tell people what to do. You could always educate, guide, but I really feel leading by example is the best way to empower others, to show others what is possible.
Beautifully said. Chandra, what about you?
I mean, it's kind of gonna echo what Wes just said, because to empower myself, I literally have to just give myself a lot of grace, because I wear a lot of hats and it can be a lot. And so I just give myself a lot of grace, and we talk to ourselves more than anybody else. So I try to, I've been trying to journal every single day and just write everything that I'm grateful for and just couple that with some grace. And that's how I just keep myself tucking along. And while I'm doing this with every hat that I have to switch throughout the day. And how I empower others is basically doing the same, giving them grace too, because more than likely every woman is also wearing multiple hats. They're doing multiple things. So, and we are our biggest critics, right? We judge ourselves the most. We are hardest on ourselves. So I try to give them grace too, and just know that they're just doing their best. And I'm not somebody, as you know, Katherine, I'm not somebody who likes to put fluff on things. I'm a very straightforward person. I'm a straight shooter. So I will empower other women by telling them where they fall short, but also telling them it's okay. Tomorrow's another day. You can start over again tomorrow. You know what I mean? And that's okay. So that's basically how I do it. I don't pretend like I have it all together. When people ask me how I do it all, I can't. So I'm very honest so that I don't I think that social media and the perception that people give about different roles and different things that they have going on in their life is always going to be portrayed in the most enlightening way, right? And sometimes it might not be the moralistic thing. So I like to be very honest in struggles, wins, challenges, everything, and hope that it's allowing other people and other women to realize that they can give themselves grace too. Nobody has it all together. I feel like that was like a little therapy session.
But it was beautifully said. I see Kay's mic's off.
I think empowering myself, I like to surround myself with positive people. I think, the people that you hang with, the people that you're always in constant contact with, they help you. So empowering myself with kindness around them, and also other people, empowering other people by, encouraging them, by constantly, being kind to them or helping them. And I think one of the things too is understanding your mistakes and like admitting to them. Hey, I made a mistake, but you know what? I learned from this, or I can grow from this. So I think that empowers you a lot, because it teaches you along the way. And again, understanding and respecting yourself.
I'll go next. I empower myself. I give myself positive talks. I prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. I do that probably way more than I do anything else. And I think self-care and setting reasonable goals are very important. And as far as other women around me, everybody needs positive reassurance sometime during their day or their life. I make sure people know around me, especially the women, how much they're appreciated. That's a great suit you're wearing. And I don't, like Chandra, I don't sugarcoat anything. If you know me, because sometimes I'm as surprised as anyone what comes out of my mouth. But I always try to express appreciation, and I'm kind to everybody, no matter how poorly they treat me. I come back with a kind phrase, or because that's just what I do.
So these ladies said it all. Basically, I try to tell myself positive affirmations in the morning. And I look at the statements, I look at my vision board and try to work towards my goals that way to keep myself moving. Because let's face it, my phrase is, you work 7 days a week, eventually got to get paid, right? So I try to keep myself moving that way. And as far as others, I'm very supportive of others, other leaders, other women. I actually got an award for being a PIA, I think, 2 years ago. And I was like, seriously, was I that bad? They're like, no, we know you meant good, Venus. And we really appreciate it. I was like, really? Because like these other young ladies here, sometimes I don't have much of a filter. I'm not very PC. So I was surprised I even got this far on the board. So I'm very fortunate, very proud, and thank you. I'm working on it all the time, TK, all the time. So thank you all. But yeah, I'm very supportive, like even with my family, like, oh, you're too busy. I said, no, invite me. I'm never too busy. And I always make the time to make it to, whatever I possibly can. So that's the worst thing I hate, when they just think, oh, they're too busy. No, we're not. We're here to support.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes all of us work together so great. We're all so brutally honest, but at the same time, so encouraging and uplifting to one another. So many of you spoke about the different hats that we are constantly wearing. So how do you balance career, your personal life, passions? Like, is there such a thing as balance? Let's start with Chandra.
No, there's no such thing. Personally speaking, I believe that trying to find balance is the reason why so many people, especially women, are having a hard time. And we judge ourselves a lot, and we're tough on ourselves. I think that it's just really important to realize that when you're saying yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else. Like, nothing is ever equal. Like, me being here on this panel with you guys means that I am not serving a client, or I am not at home with a kid, or I'm not at breakfast with my husband. You get what I'm saying? So to me, there's no such thing as balance. That doesn't mean you can't do it all, but personally, something's always going to give just a little bit. And that's okay. That's okay. That's why we have the power and the choices to say yes or no to whatever we want to say yes or no to. So that was my biggest learning lesson last year after having a third child, that, you know, there's just no way to balance it all. I just have to pick and choose what I want to say yes to, and understand that means that I'm saying no to something else. And that's okay too. Another therapy session.
I'm just gonna say, I don't balance well. Okay, I'm putting it out there. I don't. I try to say yes to everything, but I've also, like Chandra, I've learned it's okay to say no. We can't be everywhere all the time. You know, we're never going to, you know, make everybody happy, right? So
Right.
we have to choose what's going to be most important, what's beneficial. So sometimes I always want to go to the parties, you know, be the life of the party. Those sound great. Let's go to all the events. But sometimes I'm like, wait, you know, Steve, you know, is that time better spent? Or, oh, maybe I have a customer. I need to prepare for that customer instead. So it's okay to say no sometimes as well.
I've learned that you got to take care of yourself first. So a lot of you know, I walk 5 to 6 miles 6 days a week. And if it's going to interfere with an appointment, guess what's not, I'm going to extend that appointment. I'm going to put that time off. That walking is my therapy. That walking is, that's what gets me going. If I don't walk, and if I don't, it's mainly because it's weather related, that there is no balance in my life. And I've also learned to say no. I have no problem saying no. And I don't have to explain myself. I don't explain myself to anyone. And if I can't make it, I can't make it. There's no explanation needed.
And you know, as my grandmother always said, if you wanted to get something done, you ask a busy person. So
Right.
if you're busy, you're gonna get it done. And yeah, very much like what Martha said, I bike 10 miles every day. That is my time. And for a balance, that gives me like the rest of the day to get everything done. When I started in real estate, I was all over the board. So I would be out to dinner with friends, family, somebody would call, I would get up, I would leave parties, I would leave events, you know, whatever. They did an intervention and basically said, reel this in, you've got to put balance in your life. So anybody who knows me knows that I basically work to travel. And that is my balance. So, you know, that's the other side of the tipping scale. And I know that if I work really, really hard over here, I can go over here and have a really, really great vacation. So that to me is my balance in my life, you know, and again, keeping busy, you'll get it done.
So I'll jump in. I don't look at it like balance, right? Balance is a scale and you're trying to get this perfect like way of like getting everything to be equal. And I don't consider it balance. I envision myself as what I'm doing is juggling. So I have all these balls in the air, and each ball is a different part of my life, my family, my work, my company, my friends, everything in between. And sometimes I'm just throwing them up and trying to, you know, handle each one at a time. And sometimes you could get in a good groove and you're juggling and everything's falling into place and you're looking good. And then of course it all falls apart. Like that's how I feel my life runs. And lots of times in my life, I can get into a good groove where I feel like I am balancing per se, right? And you feel like I'm juggling, I'm doing great, everything's flowing, and then things happen, life happens, and it's normal. And so I don't believe in balance the way that people consider it, just wearing all those different hats and roles. But I will say one thing that has helped me over the years in my different points of my career that have all looked different, is delegating. And delegating or finding people to help me has really helped me juggle better, right? And get those balls in the air and handle more balls. And sometimes I'm handling 5, 6 because I have people around me. And if it wasn't for those people, I wouldn't be able to juggle at all, you know? So life is gonna throw you curveballs, and you're always all your balls are gonna fall down, and you gotta pick them back up and put them together. And it's because of my support system that I'm able to do that, being gracious with myself and just knowing that it's okay if you're out of whack or if everything falls apart, you just put it back together.
Well, I know everyone here is very grateful and thankful to all of you for being so refreshingly honest with that question. So the hour has flown by. So to end, just one last question quickly from all of you. We want to know, what is the one powerful woman that you look up to and why? And of course, it doesn't necessarily have to be in our industry, but we want to hear who you look up to. Martha?
I'll start, and she's very powerful to me and my family, my mother. I've seen my mother at her all-time hardest time of her life, and she's been by me through some tough times, and she's 89 years old, and she still has that iron fist. So it would be my mom.
And I'm gonna piggyback on Martha. Unfortunately, my mom passed away years ago, but she has always been my strength. She's the one who taught me to trust in myself and be yourself and never be anyone else. So.
Venus?
So I wasn't expecting this, but thinking about it, honestly, it's actually probably one of my friends, ironically, that is in leadership. I was actually with her last night. Her name is Christine Hansen, which many of you know her as a past Florida realtor. And I'm like, you know what, every time I see her, she's always got that positive attitude, that positive vibe. And it's just like, no matter what, it's going to be fine. And I think she's an amazing leader. And that was definitely probably one of the top people that I would say.
And what about you, Chandra?
My grandmothers, both of them. They were just such powerful women. And it's probably why I got a little fire in me, or a lot of fire. So them, my grandmothers were just absolutely fantastic. And I feel like I'm a very spiritual person. So I feel like sometimes I just receive a lot of grace in my life because of who they were. Like, I feel like I benefit in my life because of who they were as people. So my grandmothers.
It's beautiful. And Wesley?
So I'm gonna go a little bit different, and I'm gonna say I think it's too hard to choose one. I think women all bring different walks of life, experiences, and strengths to the table. So for me to pick just one woman would be discrediting so many others. So I could tell you my mom, obviously. So my mom, for everything she's taught me, my grandmothers, everybody in my office, even Katherine, you know, for all the hard work she puts in becoming an awesome president. Bianca from my office. TK, oh my God, can we talk about TK, right? Like, TK is just like the powerhouse. And I just see her and I'm like, can I just be you, or can I get in your brain? There's just too many women to pick one. So I think everybody brings something to the table, and I think we need to appreciate them all for that. Oh my God, let's talk about Christina Pappas, like all that she does, Florida Realtors President. I could sit here for days. So if I left anybody out, I'm sorry, but there's just so many things that women bring to the table, and I got to appreciate it all.
That was perfectly said. And speaking of powerful women, all of you are amazing. And also everyone that is on here, because there's also everyone that has tuned in are also amazing powerhouses. I see Danielle Claremont, I see Melinda, Phyllis, Cheryl, so many of you. So thank you again to all 5 of you for sharing your advice, your journey. And let's just always remember to stick together, work with one another. We can't be our own worst enemies. We always have to be just uplifting and always empower each other. So have an amazing day, and thank you again for being here.
Yeah, but on my way home, yeah. Wouldn't it be crazy? But you still amaze me. Wouldn't it be crazy? But you still amaze me. Wouldn't it be crazy? But you still amaze me. Wouldn't it be crazy? But you still amaze me. still amaze